Hello student, let me access our class web page. Let us type my name, Hyoung-Goo Kang, and then we can find Google site, and teaching, and we can find financial engineering, flipped learning, undergraduate. Click. This is our syllabus, and then let me go to our class folder here. The class folder, click lecture note. Okay, this is our lecture note. I can log in here. This is my email address, so if you have any question, you can contact me through this email address. Yes, so financial engineering, this is our lecture note. So table of contents and class introduction, and then let me explain term paper format first. Every student should write a term paper. Term paper is required for this class. The format and the content of the term paper is below. Let's check this link. And then we have a link for term paper format. So you can use, every student can use this information to write term paper. So let's go through term paper format. Every term paper should have a title and then abstract. This is a Korean abstract. For Korean students, I recommend Korean students to write Korean abstract as well as English abstract. So let's read Korean abstract. 본 연구는 A 기간 동안 B 자료를 이용하여 C와 D의 관계를 분석하였다. 분석 결과 C, D의 관계가 이해하고 있음을 발견하였다. 또한 본 연구에서는 F하는 결과도 나타났다. 본 연구의 결과는 G하고 있음을 시사한다. 따라서 학생분들은 A, B, C, D, E, F, G 부분의 내용을 적절하게 채워 넣으시면 되겠습니다. For English abstract, this study analyzed the relationship between C and D using B data during period A. We find that the relationship between C and D is E. We also find F. The result of this study suggests or implies G. So students can fill A, B, C, D, E, F, G depending on their term paper topic. So overview of the term paper. So use the paper in the follow link as a template. So if you click this one, well, we have link to Google Docs. So it is term paper. So you can students can simply overwrite on this format. Right? So this object, this is title, abstract. We have student ID and keyword. Okay. So here, this is introduction, and then whenever you want to use a table or figures in the main paper, indicate the location of the table or figure like this, and then for main content of the table and figures, students can put them at the later part of the paper, something like this. So we have table and figures at the end of the paper. For the detailed information about the paper style, refer to this one. So if we click this one, well, this is PDF file. Now we have a detailed explanation about how to formulate your term paper. And next, So grading for your term paper is a function of interesting topic, interesting analysis, clear writing style, and format structure. Actually, the first one, format structure, is the most important factor in grade, because if you follow this fourth format, you can automatically address other three issues. Important thing is never plagiarize. I recommend the student to run anti-plagiarism software. For example, Authenticate, Copy Killer, etc. I will run anti-plagiarism software, and if I find plagiarism, then student will fail for their term paper. So this is very important. Now eliminate the use of bullet or bullet items. Write everything in essay. Write everything in essay. If bullet items are essential, change it into table format, I recommend. Now, I think students can use appendix as well. So appendix 1 should describe your case data in detail in an appendix, in appendix 1. And in appendix 2, students should submit a completed article review. So students can attach article review form, attach it as on appendix 2. Then what is article review form and what is the format? Again, we have a Google Doc link. Let's click this one, Google Doc link. Then we have article review form. So students should fill this table or this format. So first type. Your term paper may be exploratory topic or empirical or theoretical work. And then question is basically research question. What is your research question? Well, finding research question is the most fundamental part of doing academic research. Then what is research question? Let's copy and paste here. Research question. Okay. Research question is in Google. Research question is the fundamental core of a research project, study or review of literature. It focuses the study, determines the methodology, and guides all stages of inquiry, analysis, and reporting. Research question. Let's check Wikipedia. Specifying the research question is methodological point of departure of scholarly research in both the natural and social science. The research will answer the question posed. So basically, your term paper is answer to your own question. You ask a question to yourself, and you answer the question with your term paper. The question to yourself is a research question. So research question is a sentence of asking question. It should end with a question mark, right? The research will answer the question posed. At an undergraduate level, the answer to research question is thesis statement. Possibly, the answer to a research question will help address the research problem, which is a problem readers think it is worth solving. Okay. So let's find example of famous research questions. Famous person research question, research paper. Well, sample of a survey question, example of applied research question. Create sociology research topics. So let me check this one. Yes, something like that. But anyway, in our class, for our class, this one, you have to, students should fill this one, this cell with a question, with a sentence ending with a question mark. And the argument, you have to prove, you have to show why is your research question important. Why is it interesting? So you write this one. And the framing, maybe phenomenon-driven to investigate a phenomenon, or theory-driven to test the theory. Well, it is like an inductive method or deductive method, so I will explain this part in detail later. And the theoretical lens is, students should fill this cell with what is the key academic literature or papers related with your paper. What is the consensus of existing literature? And what is the limitation of existing literature? Theoretical approach, verbal explication, mathematical, analytical, or mathematical or computational. So every paper needs some theory to justify empirical research or further study. So we need theoretical approach. Next, hypothesis. Hypothesis should be something like termo A1, termo B1, right? Termo A2, termo B2, something like that. So here we call A1 as independent variable and B1 as dependent variable. Now construct. Now you student should list up the key construct or concept and define those construct or concept. Now context. Context can be industry or phenomenon. Unit of analysis. Unit of analysis may be firm, individual, firm year. If we investigate multiple firms in each year, it is firm year. Or you are maybe focused on event. Now sampling strategy. How do you get your data for term paper? Maybe you are using some database, or you are doing some archival analysis, or you are running survey, or you are doing case study or experiment. Every research design is fine. Now sample, you have to describe your sample, and then measure. Here it is measure. So, here in order to test hypothesis, we need to measure A1, B1, A2, B2, something like that. So they are measured, and then you write down key concept. Actually, you write down construct over here, and then you write down whether it's dependent variable, independent variable, or control variable. Again, in hypothesis, B1 is dependent variable, B1 is DV, A1 is independent variable, IV, and control variable is other things that may affect B1, but it is less important to you. I mean, the most in your research, the most important relationship is between DV and IV, dependent variable, and independent variable, but other variables may affect dependent variables, so we need to control them. You list up those control variables. Range is like positive or integer values, or minus infinity to plus infinity, something like that. And type is continuous variable, binary variable like 0, 1, yes or no, something like that, ordinal or cardinal value. Now empirical model. What is your main empirical strategy? Maybe you want to run OLS regression, GLS regression, or others, or you may want to run machine learning or neural network, lasso regression, or may you do only case study, or may you do only interviews or some experiment. Next, you write down your finding and write down your contribution and write down managerial or policy implication. Managerial implication is implication to the firm or practitioners. Policy implication is implication to like policymakers. So this is article review form, and this article review form, completed article review form should go to appendix 2. And appendix 3 should be the curriculum vitae of the authors. So it is basically, I want to know more about you, so students should introduce themselves with a well-written curriculum vitae in appendix 3. Now appendix 4 should be detailed literature review. See below for literature review guide. This is the detailed literature review guide. So what should we write in appendix 4? do literature review following the format at this link. So let me click. Yes, and then download. It is written in Korean, so foreign students don't have to follow this approach. But for Korean students, they have to make literature review in this format. Okay, there is a literature review in bullet item and literature review. Well, we have also tables. So I want students to develop literature review table and list references in APA format. In the table, when you cite foreign author, cite name as Hyoung-Goo 2009. Now the literature review table, the example of this one is written in Korean, but in the literature review table is organized around the subsection, subgroup, and then first column to see the subsection. So the first column in the table should be a title of a subsection of literature review. So the literature review table is organized around the subsection or subgroup. So what we have to do is, once you have a research question, you find your keyword, and using the keyword, you go to Google Scholar. Okay, you go to Google Scholar. Like, okay, let me write that. Download relevant paper using keyword from Google Scholars. Scholar google.ca. Go to here, go to this link, and then type keyword, and you can download relevant paper. Once you download the paper, you want to classify the papers by consensus and categorize them into separate groups. Next step, once you classify the paper, next you have to name the groups. You have to find the name of the group and use the name of your group as a title of the subsection. Title of the subsection over here. And this one should appear in the very first column of literature review table. Okay? And then summarize the consensus of the subsection and then introduce each pattern in detail. To do this task, you do not have to read the whole paper. Just check abstract, conclusion, and introduction, or selected part of the paper. Then it is enough to write the consensus of the subgroup. Once you just reading those abstract, conclusion, and introduction, then you can figure out the basic idea of the paper. Once you figure out basic idea of the paper, now you can classify the paper into the similar subject or similar consensus. And then for each group, you name the group, which becomes subsection, title of subsection, and then you want to summarize the consensus. Okay. Of course, you have to read some papers very carefully. So once you identify some key papers, then you can read them thoroughly. Next, students should submit. Okay, this is the literature review part. And then next, students should submit their 5 or 6 page presentation slide. Okay, check the next link about the guideline. Okay. Okay. So this is a guideline about how to write a presentation slide. Okay. So presentation slide. So at page 0 or title page, it should include the title and then abstract as follows. I already explained this one. And overwrite on this slide format. So if you click this one, where there is some my presentation slide, so you can download it and overwrite it. Okay. So if you can use this as a format. Now, in your presentation, basically, I want students to write a slide, presented slide, with about 5 or 6 pages. And I want students can spend around 2 or 3 minutes for each slide. So in total, it would be like 10 minutes to 15 minutes. Right? Now you can address each bullet in 1 or 2 sentences, bullet meaning those items. Okay, so let me explain. When students prepare presentation slide, it has a 2 format, 2 strategy, either deductive or inductive. Deductive, if students prepare presentation slide in deductive format, well, the next 5 pages follows like this. Page 1 is introduction. In introduction, students can write research question, and because it is deductive, students write down their proposition hypothesis in the page 1. Of course, the hypothesis should be look like the more X, the more Y. In page 2 is the logic to the proposition. Okay, how we derive this proposition. So logic to the proposition is we need, in order to justify explain the logic to this proposition, we need a theory or theoretical background, and we need key literature, key academic paper, and then we have to explain how we reach this proposition from theory. So logic from theory to proposition. That's why we need to explain theory and theoretical background and key literature. Now we have hypothesis or proposition and the logic to the proposition. Now next step is collect the data to test the hypothesis. So page 3 should explain the data. What is your data? How did you collect the data? How did you define the concept X and Y in the data? Page 4 is data analysis. 1, the variation in X, the variation in Y, and then does the data validate your hypothesis? Okay, so here in basically data analysis, because the proposition the more X, the more Y, so what we have to do is we have to find the variation in X, and we have to find the variation in Y, and we have to match variation in X, variation in Y. So for example, so we have to find variation in X, X variation, and we have to find the variation in Y, Y variation. And by matching X variation in X, variation Y, maybe we can find the pattern something like this, right? Then by analyzing the relation, maybe we can find this relationship, which implies then the more X, the more Y. So this validates your hypothesis. So we have to discuss by matching variation in X and variation in Y, we have to explain whether the data validate our hypothesis. Page 5 is conclusion. Conclusion page should include the statement about what you have learned and the limitation of your analysis. No paper is perfect, so you have to honestly discuss the limitation of your analysis. This is the strategy for deductive presentation, and we have alternative, which is inductive presentation. Okay, page 1 is same. Page 1 is similar. We have to explain research question, but because it is inductive model, instead of writing proposition, we need to write background literature. We explain background literature related with your research question. Now page 2 is, now we go directly to data or cases. In page 2, we have to explain how did you select cases or data? What method did you use to collect data? Page 3 is data analysis. Data analysis seems similar. Now we want to match the variation in one variable, like a culture, to the variation on another, like a performance. If you are interested in how company culture affect the company's performance, then we need to find the variation in culture, and we need to investigate variation in performance. So you can make, because this should be detailed, you can make this data analysis part into 2 slides. So page 3.1 and page 3.2. You can make this data analysis part into 2 slides, and then we need within case analysis and cross case analysis. Within case analysis means that within case analysis meaning investigate variations of variables, like summary statistics. Now cross case analysis meaning investigate the relation between the variation of variables. This one, right? So within case analysis is within case analysis is showing the variation in x, and then showing the variation of y. Showing variation in x and y separately, it is within case analysis. Now if you match the variation in x and variation in y, something like this, now it is cross case analysis. Now from that cross-case analysis, now you can shape your hypothesis, the shape of your hypothesis. And of course, hypothesis should be something like termo x1, termo y1, termo x2, termo y2. And then we need a brief justification of your hypothesis. Now conclusion section. Conclusion section, we need to compare, you need to compare your result with conflicting literature. Now, and then compare your result with similar literature. And the new students need to discuss what they learned. So this is the slide, 5-page slide for your term paper presentation. Please keep in mind. Now let's close. Now let's go deeply into the structure of your term paper. Similar to your presentation slide, paper structure, as we have 2 strategies to structure your paper. It is inductive and deductive. We will continue the explanation about the paper structure after the break.